You were told intelligence was the advantage. You studied harder, read more, understood systems that most people around you couldn't even name, and you are still broke. Not struggling, not almost there, broke. The person next to you, who reads nothing, thinks nothing, questions nothing, owns 3 properties and sleeps fine. This is not an accident. This is not luck. This is not a gap you can close by learning more. The people at the top of every financial system in human history have known something about intelligence that they have never taught in any school, any book, any motivational framework ever sold to the middle class. Schopenhauer wrote it down in 1818. Nobody told you. The myth of intellectual merit is the most profitable lie ever constructed. It tells you that intelligence, applied with discipline, produces wealth. It doesn't. It produces output, and output, without the right architecture beneath it, produces nothing but more output for someone else. You have been working inside a system designed to extract maximum value from exactly the kind of person you are. In 1788, Arthur Schopenhauer was born into wealth, watched his father die in what most historians believe was suicide, and spent the rest of his life trying to understand why human beings suffer in ways that have nothing to do with their intelligence or their effort. He was not a self-help writer. He was a diagnostician, and what he diagnosed in 1818 destroyed every comfortable assumption about how the world rewards people. His argument was this: beneath every rational decision, beneath every career plan, beneath every financial strategy, there is a blind, irrational force operating independently of your conscious mind. He called it the will. The will does not care about your logic. It does not respond to your plans. It drives, it pushes, it wants, without knowing what it wants or why. Every financial market ever built is the will made visible in numbers. Every crash, every bubble, every irrational investment decision that destroyed a generation's savings, that was not stupidity. That was the will, collective, uncontrolled, operating beneath every spreadsheet and every rational analysis produced by some of the most intelligent people who ever lived. Intelligence did not save them. It gave them better language to describe what was already happening. Here is what Schopenhauer saw that nobody in the financial space will say directly. The will does not distribute rewards based on cognitive ability. It distributes rewards based on position. The person who understands power structures, who reads the room before reading the report, who sees what people want before they say it, that person is operating at the level of the will. The person analyzing the correct answer is operating one level below. Study after study confirms what Schopenhauer described philosophically. IQ predicts academic performance. It predicts technical output. It predicts the ability to solve defined problems within defined systems. It does not predict net worth. It does not predict entrepreneurial success. It does not predict the ability to accumulate capital. Above a threshold of about 120, additional IQ points produce 0 additional financial return. The system is not broken. It was built this way. Andrew Carnegie left school at 13. No degree, no formal training, no intellectual credentials recognized by any institution. What he had was a specific, brutal ability to read the interior landscape of every person he sat across from. Their vanity, their fear, their need to be seen, their blind spots. He did not analyze people, he felt them, and he used what he felt with the precision of a surgeon. By age 23, he had identified Thomas Scott at the Pennsylvania Railroad as the single node of power worth attaching to. He studied Scott not as an employer, but as a psychological structure. His ego, his insecurities, his public face versus his private motivations. Carnegie made himself indispensable, not by being the most competent person in the room, by being the most useful person to the most powerful person in the room. That distinction is everything. Évariste Galois was one of the most mathematically gifted human beings who ever lived. By age 20, he had developed group theory, an entire branch of mathematics. He submitted his work 3 times to the French Academy. 3 times it was lost or ignored. He died in a duel at 20. Net worth, 0. Contribution to the structure of the universe, immeasurable. The system processed him perfectly. What the textbooks don't tell you is that Galois understood exactly what was happening. He wrote, the night before he died, that he was a victim not of stupidity, but of the architecture of recognition. Value in any system is determined not by the quality of the output, but by the position of the person validating it. He was 20 years old. He died with nothing. Isaac Newton invented calculus, described gravity, built the foundations of classical physics. He was also master of the Royal Mint and died with the equivalent of several $1 million today. He understood something Galois did not. Intelligence is a tool. Tools must be aimed. Newton aimed his at both the structure of the universe and the structure of power. He survived. He accumulated. He died rich. The pattern across Carnegie, Galois, Newton, Tesla, and across every person you have known who was brilliant and broke is not talent, it is targeting. What you point your intelligence at determines whether the system rewards you or extracts from you. Intelligence pointed at problems produces solutions. Solutions inside a system controlled by someone else produce value for the person who controls the system. Here is the trap. High intelligence produces a specific cognitive experience, the experience of being correct, of seeing things others miss, of understanding systems before they unfold. That experience is internally rewarding. It produces something that feels like progress. But being correct and being compensated for being correct are 2 entirely different events, governed by 2 entirely different mechanisms. Schopenhauer described this when he wrote about the nature of satisfaction. Every time the will achieves what it wants, the satisfaction is momentary. Then a new desire appears. Intelligence creates its own version of this loop. You solve the problem, you feel the satisfaction. You look for the next problem. The accumulation of solved problems produces reputation, respect, and frequently no money. Every institution that has ever existed, corporations, universities, governments, armies, is structurally dependent on intelligent people who believe that solving the problem is the point. If every intelligent person understood that the point is controlling who defines the problems, every existing power structure would collapse within a generation. This is why the myth of intellectual merit is not accidental, it is load-bearing. The educational system does not fail intelligent people by accident, it processes them. 12 years training the brain to receive a defined problem, produce a correct answer, and wait for external validation. Not once are you taught how to define your own problem. Not once are you taught that the person who defines the problem controls all the value produced by solving it. You were trained to be the most expensive component in someone else's machine. That is not a conspiracy. That is an architecture, built deliberately, maintained profitably, and designed to feel like opportunity to the people it is extracting from. The most intelligent students graduate deepest into it. That is not irony. That is the system working exactly as intended. Schopenhauer's solution was not what people expect. He did not say suppress the will. He did not say become passive. He said, understand it in yourself and in others so precisely that you stop being driven by it unconsciously and start using its structure deliberately. The person who understands the will reads every room differently. Every negotiation, every financial decision becomes a different question. Directed intelligence is not smarter intelligence. It is intelligence aimed at the right target, not the problem. The person controlling the problem, not the market, the psychology of the people moving the market, not the system, the will that built the system and maintains it because it serves someone's interest to keep it exactly as it is. This is the operating manual that every wealthy dynasty has been using for centuries. There are specific patterns that intelligent people develop that actively prevent wealth accumulation. The need to be right in the room, which destroys negotiation. The need to understand before committing, which destroys timing. The need to solve the interesting problem rather than the profitable one, which destroys accumulation. The need for the work to speak for itself, which destroys positioning. Intelligent people are disproportionately committed to accuracy, to saying the correct thing even when the incorrect thing would serve them better. This is morally admirable and financially catastrophic in certain environments. The market does not reward accuracy. It rewards confidence. It rewards narrative. It rewards the ability to make other people's will move in a direction that benefits you. The shift is not intellectual. You already have enough intelligence. The shift is directional. Every morning, the question is not what problem can I solve today? It is whose will am I operating inside, and does that arrangement benefit me? If you are solving problems defined by someone else, rewarded on a timeline set by someone else, your intelligence is working for the architecture. Carnegie never read about power. He watched it. He sat in rooms and mapped who deferred to whom, who controlled the narrative, who laughed first, who waited. He developed a real-time model of the will in every environment he entered, not by becoming manipulative, by becoming literate in the actual language the room is speaking, which is never the language people are using with their mouths. In every era, across every culture, the structure is identical. Wealth flows toward people who control the definition of value, not toward people who produce it. Rockefeller controlled who could transport oil. Carnegie controlled who could afford to build with steel. Morgan controlled who could access capital. The product is never the point, the position is everything. Schopenhauer did not write a self-help book. He wrote a philosophical system that contains a precise description of how power actually distributes resources in human societies. The will is not evil, it is amoral. It moves toward what it wants with complete indifference to fairness, merit, or intelligence. The person who understands this stops fighting it and starts reading it. You have been in rooms your entire life where this was operating and you were not seeing it. Every promotion that went to the wrong person, every pitch where the better idea lost, every negotiation where you walked away with less, those were not failures of intelligence. They were failures of will literacy. You understood the content, you did not read the room. The room was never about the content. Schopenhauer and Carnegie never met, but if they had, Schopenhauer would have recognized Carnegie immediately, a human being who had stopped asking what is correct and started asking what the will in the room is actually moving toward. Carnegie could not have articulated it philosophically, but he lived it with a precision that made him the richest person in human history. The question is not whether you are intelligent enough. You are. The question is whether your intelligence is currently working for you or working for the person who defined the problem you are solving. If the answer is not immediately obvious, that is your answer. The architecture is invisible to the people it is extracting from. That is not an accident. That is the design. You cannot opt out of the will. It operates in every human system you will ever enter, but you can become literate in it. You can stop being moved by it unconsciously and start reading it deliberately. That transition does not require more intelligence. It requires redirecting the intelligence you already have, away from the problem and toward the person defining it. The most valuable competence in any financial environment is not technical, not analytical. It is the ability to read what people want before they say it, and to position yourself at the point where the will in the room needs to pass through you. Carnegie had it. Newton had it. Schopenhauer described it. You have never been taught it because the people who benefit from you not having it designed your education. What changes when you see this is not your intelligence, it is your orientation. The same analysis that made you the best problem solver in the room now gets applied one level higher, to the person who brought the problem into the room and to the reason they brought it. That shift takes approximately 30 seconds to make. It takes most people an entire career to discover it is possible. Every financial decision you will ever make happens inside a will field, a set of forces moving in directions defined by people with more positional authority than technical ability. The intelligent person analyzes the decision. The wealthy person reads the field. Both are working hard. Only one is working in the direction the system is already moving. Schopenhauer's final argument was simple. The will is not your enemy. It is the medium you are swimming in. And the first step, the only step that matters, is to stop pretending the water is not there. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every room looks different. Every conversation reveals its actual structure. The money follows. There is a reason you found this video. The person who searches for why intelligent people stay poor is not looking for motivation. They are looking for architecture. They already know they are capable. They need to know what has been built around that capability, and by whom, and for what purpose. That question is not comfortable. It is necessary. The myth of intellectual merit will not collapse publicly. It is too useful. Too many institutions depend on it. Too many intelligent people need to believe that the system rewards what they are best at. It will collapse privately, in the minds of the people who stop accepting the myth and start reading the mechanism. That collapse, when it happens, is not depression, it is orientation. You were not lied to about your intelligence. You were lied to about what intelligence is for. It is not for producing correct answers inside systems designed by others. It is for reading those systems precisely enough to know where to stand inside them and where not to. Schopenhauer knew this. Carnegie lived it. Newton practiced it. The question is what you do with it now. The difference between brilliant and wealthy is not intelligence. It is not effort. It is not even luck. It is the moment, specific, personal, irreversible, when you stop asking, how do I solve this? And start asking who benefits from me solving this, and whether that arrangement is one you chose. Most people never ask that question. Most people were never taught it was a question. Blind spot exists for one reason, to show you the architecture you are living inside, so you can decide whether to stay there